Diplomacy. Corpsman Squall uses the handful of Arabic words he knows to try to calm the frantic family running from the room once the door breaks free. Tawakufa! Huna! Nan huna la mahasad! Muhammad targets the patriarch, pulling him aside and gesturing at his wife and daughters. Calm them down, Muhammad, Corpsman Squall says, rushing up the stairs. I'm going to the roof to lay down cover fire. Nicholas and I follow the corpsman up the stairs, but I can't keep up with him. By the time I reach the roof, Corpsman Squall is firing his M16 over the side, and First Lieutenant Tack is leading the charge toward the house. From up here, we get a better view of Gentile as Stankiewicz, Rogers, and Cox carry him. His face is bloody and mangled, a mask of horror. A cry boils up from Corpsman Squall's very core as he turns his rifle on the Mujahideen. Nicholas watches as my younger self shoots 3 men. One is tall and lean with a spindly gray beard. His right eye bursts before his body drops to the street. The second man is stocky and sullen. His beard is long and bushy. It takes 3 shots before he forfeits his fight. The last is a teenager, not yet old enough for a beard. Corpsman Squall aims to wound, not kill. The teenager lies down in the gutter, clutching at his spurting leg. Soon Matrakos is leading their men onto the roof and assigning them quadrants to cover. He steps up to the corpsman, and with a grave expression, he says, "Doc, you better get down there and have a look at Gentile." Back down the stairs, Chewie ignores his wounded neck and fires his saw from a position in the breached doorway while Maletic feeds him ammunition. The room rocks as an RPG hits an external wall, and soon a barrage of shots can be heard from the roof. Page speaks urgently to the first lieutenant. "Sir, we spotted a sniper. Antelik had glass on him. We think he's the one that hit Alvarez and Gentile." First Lieutenant Tack asks, "What's the problem? Get him in your sights and take him out." Page shakes his head. "He's holed up in the mosque. The Geneva Convention protects religious buildings, sir." Glancing over at Muhammad, who stands beside the huddled family in the corner, First Lieutenant Tack says, "I want you to do God's work and cast that sacrilegious son of a bitch out of that house of worship, like Christ himself did with the money changers in the temple. Do you understand me, soldier? Send him to his virgins." Antelik nods and says, "Sir, yes, sir." He and Page rush up the stairs. Corpsman Squall elbows his way between Stankiewicz, Rogers, and Cox, who crowd around the table where they've laid Gentile's body. He sees the shock on their dirty faces and the tears in their eyes and tries to mask his own sinking feeling. After seeing Gentile's limp body, he knows there's no hope of finding a heartbeat. The bullet struck him and tore through his brow, ripping a gash across his face and leaving an exit wound just under his chin. How could anyone live through something like that? And yet, through broken teeth and bloody lips, a low moan slips from Gentile's mouth. Corpsman Squall's eyes widen as he says with utter disbelief, "He's alive?" First Lieutenant Tack pulls Chewie and Maletic from their position in the front door and replaces them with Rogers and Cox. Fired up by the adrenaline rush of almost dying, the privates are reluctant to get out of the fight. "Maletic, join your team on the roof. Alvarez, you need to get that throat patched up." "I'm good to go, sir." "You can't be a trigger puller with your fingers squeaky with your own blood, Private. Besides, a little gauze couldn't make your aim any worse, could it?" That smile is all Chewie needs to get him to stop fighting with his first lieutenant. But as Maletic carries ammo to the roof, he points at Corpsman Squall. "Doc's busy, sir. I can wait." Reaching into the corpsman's pack and fishing out the supplies he'll need, First Lieutenant Tack says, "I think I can handle your little boo-boo myself." Corpsman Squall wipes his forehead with his wrist and looks up at his commander. "Sir, we need to call for a medevac immediately." Applying battle dressing to Chewie's wound, First Lieutenant Tack says, "Too thick. We're on our own until we can get reinforcements. The seriousness of the situation sinks in for the men standing around the table. The rattle of enemy fire peppers the side of the house. A saw sprays molten death out of the front door. Men fight for their lives on the roof, and Corpsman Squall searches his memory for any training he might have gotten that could help him save Gentile in this most desperate hour. I'm just as transfixed by the terror I felt at that moment as I watched my younger self fight off panic and try to steady his hands. With fingers clearing Gentile's airway and delicately applying the limited tools of field medicine, Corpsman Squall shows none of the nightmarish thoughts echoing inside his mind. I wander nervously around the room and rave at Nicholas. What's the use of sterile bandages? Huh? We're both covered in filth. If he's lucky enough to survive his wounds, he'll probably die of infection. His family deserves better than this. Gentile's children deserve better than me. What was I even doing here? Despite the fear, he keeps moving. Despite the doubt, he never stops. Everything around us begins to move, as if in fast forward. Nicholas and I rush to a future moment. I don't know how long has passed. It could be an eternity. It could be an hour. The men have run out of targets to shoot. Everything has gone quiet outside, except for one man's lonesome Arabic pleas somewhere out there in the dark. Stankiewicz and Corpsman Squall lift Gentile from the table and carry him outside, where an armored battalion has arrived to offer backup. The corporal and corpsman rush past the Amtraks to an incoming helicopter. With soldier prayers on their lips, they lay Gentile's body down. The scene outside the house is terrible. Dozens of insurgents lay dead, their blood literally flowing down the street. The places where Gentile and Chewie were hit are stained, and the whole area is lanced with shrapnel and debris. How anyone could have lived through taking cover here seems incredible. Stankiewicz seeks out the man who is screaming for help. When he finds the teenager, he's still clutching the thigh Corpsman Squall struck. Stankiewicz puts his boot against the boy's chest, points his rifle at the frightened insurgent's tear-stained face, and pulls the trigger. When they return to the front of the house, Corporal Stankiewicz and Corpsman Squall are met with the rest of their rifle squad. They fall into line and make their way toward the next objective. Their mission is only just beginning.